Dragon Age Veilgaurd is pure slop. Everyone knows it, and no one wants to play the game anymore. It hasn't been even a full week, and everyone's abandoning ship.
As expected, Dragon Age the Veilguard is massively tanking. The numbers are just getting less and less and less in this particular video game, and it's something that we don't usually see for RPGs that are supposed to have multiple endings, multiple different branches you're allowed to take, blah, blah, blah. And that's because ultimately
Are you actually allowed even to take multiple different branches? I mean, kind of a lie.
people see this game for what it is. It is an action game that supposedly features some RPG elements, but it's nowhere near enough to get yourself some long-term playability like it is for
God of War, if God of War was a little bit more gay than it already is. I'm just saying, that kid is probably not even Kratos, is okay? But there was a great time when we had abandon your daughter QTE events. No longer. No longer.
for example, Baldur's Gate 3 or anything like that. So again, ladies and gentlemen, apparently Dragon Age the Veilguard's peak player counts have dropped by over 30%, all-time peak in just 7 days.
How embarrassing. How embarrassing.
Shut up, old man. You know nothing, yo. You literally let the Cid just cook there because you were too stupid and arrogant. Little green monkey thing.
Now you're probably asking yourself, gee, why would it drop this much, right? Like most people haven't even completed the
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised it hasn't dropped more. But again, I do think that BioWare is botting. I legitimately think BioWare is botting. For example, when Dustborn came out, oh, and also Concord, the devs had like an opening celebration where they all went and played the game and had fun, and that's pretty much their peak number of players because they themselves played it. Funny.
game. If you go to SteamDB and you look at the achievement tab, you'll realize that there's only a small percentage of people that have actually completed the game on Steam. So why is this game dropping 30% players in just 7 days? There's got to be
Usually a small minority of people actually finish games. I would be surprised if even 40% of people who bought the game finished. Even once. Any game. Even good games. Most people don't.
a reason for that. And well, quite frankly, it's what I've been saying for the longest time. There is a bunch of normies out there that bought this title thinking that Dragon Age was going to be an actual Dragon Age game, right? Most people saw Dragon Age the Veilguard and they thought to themselves, oh wow, haven't played a game in 10 years that was based in Dragon Age, right? Can't wait to play this. This is going to be exciting, right? And they actually play the game and they realize, wow.
Imagine being a gamer in the current year and being excited over anything. Man, hard times, huh?
What the hell kind of liberal gender studies degree nonsense did I just buy? So let's get into this article, guys.
Probably one that has something to do with African tribal dancing misogyny reinterpretation. That would be my guess. Those gender diplomas are pretty fucking wild.
From Phantom Pulse, but of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video
buttons
to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says Dragon Age the Veilguard peak player count decreases over 30% from an all-time peak in just 1 week. Dragon Age the Veilguard hit a peak concurrent player count of 89,418 on Sunday, November 3rd, during the game's first weekend since it released on October.
I'm honestly still surprised that it hit past its 77,000 all-time high that it previously had. I'm honestly surprised it did that.
October 31st, a week later, and the peak player count only hit 61,063. That is a decline of 31.7%.
Again! You know why I think that it's being botted or some shit? Because look at these graphs. They are wild. Okay? When you have a graph going like this and that, it's fine. When you have graphs going like this, where you see there's like this plateau here, that means that something strange is happening in here. What the fuck happened? I'm sorry. Did like 10,000 people disconnect in an instant? What exactly is here going on, for example? These graphs don't make a lot of sense. There needs to be some explanation why they look like this, because this is not natural. For example, look at this. This was, by the way, I haven't seen this before. I haven't seen the graphs now. But look at this. What is this? And why does it repeat here? Very strange. Very strange.
0.7%. For comparison, Baldur's Gate 3 hit an all-time peak concurrent player count of 875,343 on August 13th of 2023. A week later, and the peak player count had only declined to 813,288. That is only a decline of 7.09%. Now, again, ladies and
I actually can explain all of this if you consider one thing. Let's see the graph again. This can all be explained by the fact that this. I said it before, but if you want to estimate how many copies were sold, you can do it from the Steam chart and just times the number of peak players by 1 or by 10. And that will be roughly the estimate. Now, admittedly, this estimate can be wrong by a factor. Well, it's not actually a factor of 5, but it can be right or wrong by up to 50%. And then there's the aberrant situation that occurred with Dragon Age, considering we know that this game has most likely sold 500 to a max of 800 copies, which means that we are in a Helldivers 2 situation here, but in the reverse and negative sense of the claim, that people play this game a lot. And why is it? Because this, most likely, is the full fucking blown might of the Vogue audience. If Dragon Age Veilgaurd would have been following any the average way that these games followed, it would probably have peaked at like 60-ish K, and the average would be like 30 to maybe 40K players a day. Maybe. Okay? That would have been its actual player base number, okay? But everyone is playing this, and this means that this is literally the full fucking might and force of the Vogue audience. That's right. It's all the shill journos, it's all the this, all the that. It's every single wrong person that you know never want to encounter in real life currently doing their fucking best to keep Dragon Age Veilgaurd alive. That is the reality.
1,343 on August 13th of 2023. A week later, and the peak player count had only declined to 813,288. That is only a decline of 7.09%. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's very obvious and very clear that most games would probably decline around 10 to 15% or so after the first week, because obviously you have the big rush. Everybody's trying to buy it when it's brand new, especially when it's a game like this, right? People are going to play it consistently for a few days until eventually they either get close to beating it or they get to a point where there's just so much to do that it's clearly going to take a lot of time, and people can't dedicate that much.
Oh, also remember that these things follow different rules. For example, Last Epoch, Path of Exile, even Diablo 4 follow different rules of player drop off after a new season drops or something like that. It's different.
Hours all the time to playing a game like that. I get it. Games like this are an investment. Really, they're an investment of your time, and I understand that. But a game like this that is dropping 31% in the first week, when you already don't have great numbers, that's not good, right? That's not good. It shows me a couple of things, okay? It shows me, number one, that the game was carried by streamers, in my opinion, right? This game was absolutely carried by streamers streaming the game and showcasing just how bad it was to their fan base. So that's why the concurrent player count was so high, even though the copies sold are seemingly less than Metaphor Refantasio.
Also, remember that there were copies given out for. And again, I still think BioWare is botting. I think BioWare is fucking botting.
And that game had an 85,000 peak player count and yet sold over 1 million copies. This game had an 89,000 peak player count and barely sold 500,000 copies if it's lucky. So it clearly shows that this game was carried by controversy and carried by hype, at least for the first initial numbers. But what ends up happening is that after a couple of hours, when people do their first initial streams, they, a lot of people probably refunded the game. You had streamers, they probably bought the game just so they can stream it and then refund it. Yeah, I'm not lying. I've seen people buy this game, play this game for a couple of hours, and then never play it again. So they're clearly buying it just to refund it. That way they could get the initial hit on their streams for the first day. That's number one. Number two, you got all the normies who are buying this game, and I've talked about this to nausea. They buy the game expecting something different, and then when they play it, they realize, oh my God, what the hell did I buy? And then they refund it. So you got those people. Then you got the people who refund physical copies on console. But again, we're talking about Steam numbers, so we're just going to stick to that. It's very clear that this is a mix of controversy.
Consoles don't matter. Come on. Who cares?
Carrying the concurrent number very high or higher than it should have been. And it's also a mix of people refunding it. Those two things together start to make the numbers make a lot more sense than they do, because otherwise this doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense that a game with 89,000 peak concurrent players didn't even sell.
My eyes, Hypno. Are you trying to blind me, man? For God, I'm suing you. That's it. Physical hardmanship. That was just, oh boy. Alyssa McCartney or whatever your dumb name is, move aside. No, actually, let's team up. That was a flash.
Past 500,000 copies. It doesn't make any sense, right? It seems very odd to me, because every game that's ever hit that much current players will
look at that. Listen to, bam, literal poetry.
Will sell over 1 million copies, but this one's not even close
or
to.
Maybe YouTube's listening. They actually are, unironically. Dude, you have a microphone and talk about buying a new refrigerator. Yeah, it literally happens, but
half of that. So something clearly is wrong here. Then it says that, in fact, Baldur's Gate 3 had a 76% higher peak concurrent player count than Dragon Age: The Veilguard in the last 24 hours. It hit a peak concurrent player count of 107,000.
Baldur's Gate 3 had a 76% higher player count than... Yep, Matt actually checks out.
658. This game is disgusting, bro. It's absolutely disgusting. The amount of numbers that it's able to pull is disgusting, but that's because it has a disgusting amount of replayability. You can talk to someone who played Baldur's Gate 3, and I guarantee you, most of their decisions do not line up with yours. Yep. There is that much opportunity for a difference in a playthrough, and then people just keep playing.
Unless you're a sociopath.
And playing to experience it, the different playthroughs that they possibly can experience. Then it says, similarly, Elden Ring hit a peak concurrent player count of 953,426 on March 5th of 2023. A week after hitting its all-time peak, it still had a peak concurrent of 825,276.
That is actually super impressive for Elden Ring. You know why? Because this is a game that's supposed to be hard, even though it's not. Go play Lost Ark if you want to actually play a hard game. Shut up. You're not gonna win this argument. Elden Ring is easy compared to Lost Ark. Boom, bam, bam, beep, beep, beep. But still, Elden Ring is considered the hard game, and it's kind of hard for most, and a lot of people rage quit it. The fact that a week after, in a game that literally is designed to test the average person and make them struggle, that only 13% said, no, fuck this, is kind of amazing. Blatantly amazing, considering how many people actually, if you remember, complained about Elden Ring being too hard with the DLC and stuff.
7 players. That's only a decline of 13.4%. Now, keep in mind, with Elden Ring, these games are extremely difficult, right? People will play for the first couple of days and they'll end up either rage quitting for a little while, or they'll come back to it, after a boss.
He's smart. He knows what's up. Look at how smart that sentence is. Look at how genius. People who genius. So smart.
Kicks their ass for too long. They'll take a break, come back to it a few days later with a clearer mind, and try to beat it. You know what I'm saying? It makes sense that there's people that will end up, not playing it after the first week. But even that game only experienced 13.4%, nowhere near 31%. Then it says, furthermore, the game hit its all-time peak in its second weekend. In its first Saturday, February 26, 2023, it hit a peak of 861,538. So the game actually saw its peak concurrent players increase by 10.6% in its second weekend. Well, look at that. Isn't that incredible? The decline in Dragon Age: The Veilguard's peak concurrent player counts could be appearing.
That is, by the way, just people talking about how great the game is, and that's why it happens. Because, you know, some people don't know what the Souls-like series is. Some people don't know what Elden Ring is. And then people are like, whoa, people are playing this for like really, really much. There's a bunch of reasons why you miss something big that happens in games and whatnot, okay? I personally never heard of Call of Duty until the point that, I don't know, a couple of years ago. I didn't give a shit about that. Turns out, fucking super big thing. Didn't know it even existed. Didn't like it though. In any case, that was Hypno. 10 out of 10. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.